Differentiation in learning relates to the idea that education isn't and shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all approach. For example, students may come to your class with different amounts of prior training or confidence in your material, and they can also have different needs when it comes to assignments. So I've got 5 minutes and 5 minutes only to show you some ways that you can adjust tasks in Canvas to account for different learner needs. In the May 2026 TLC Tech Time, we talked in depth about options you have when building an assignment in Canvas. And at the end of that tutorial, we talked briefly about designating due dates. In this Canvas in 5, I want to come back to that to highlight the idea of differentiation that we just described. At the bottom of the assignment page, you can find options to assign access. Canvas's default is to have everyone assigned. However, we can edit the settings here to differentiate this assignment. For example, we can create tasks or pages that are only assigned to certain students. And this might be helpful if we need to create a custom makeup or a remediation assignment, or if some students are ready to tackle a more advanced task, while other students would benefit from a task with more scaffolding. But we also have the option to assign all students to one assignment, but to offer different due dates. For example, let's say here we have students who are traveling for a conference and would benefit from a 1-week extension for this task. We can update that easily here in Canvas. So I'm going to leave this current assign to box and I'm going to click plus assign to below it. We can use the search bar or the drop-down menu to find the student or students who need an extension. We can then add the new date and time when they need to submit. So if we offered a 1-week extension, we can do that easily. Looking at the original assign to box, we can see that Canvas has automatically updated this option to, instead of reading everyone, to read everyone else. So in this case, we would have one deadline for the designated students and everyone else would have the original deadline. As a brief caveat, if you have previously indicated an available until date and time for this assignment, you will need to make sure that the assignment is available until the extended deadline for the people that you've offered that extension to. And you can update that until date, if applicable, in the second box that you've created. So here in this process, we've talked about extensions for traditional Canvas assignments. And the same process would work for a discussion board and for quizzes and other assignments that have this assign access section in their settings. But I want to show you an option specifically related to differentiation in quizzes. I'm going to navigate to quizzes here, and I want to point out I have one classic quiz and one new quiz. In classic quizzes, we can add additional attempts or time for students using the moderate this quiz option. Here we can select the student or students for whom we want to make a modification and click the change extensions. Here we can add additional attempts or additional time for the students. If the quiz availability has already locked because it's past a due date, you can also check the box to manually unlock the quiz for the next attempt. This option will unlock the quiz and you can add a new availability window if needed using the same process that we just talked about before. This process is similar for new quizzes, but the steps are just slightly different. Within the Moderate tab on New Quizzes, we'll instead navigate to the student that we need to adjust settings for and click the pencil icon. Here we can add additional attempts, additional time, or we can reduce answer choices if that would be beneficial to this student. That takes me to the end of my time for today. For more Canvas tips like this one, check out the TLC's Learning channel and consider subscribing so that you get alerted when new videos are released. We hope that you can join us on June 26th, 2026 for TLC Tech Time, where we will continue to explore options for differentiation in Canvas. And in the meantime, I hope you feel a bit more prepared to offer customization as needed for the students in your classes.